The coastal region of Kenya is home to a variety of communities whose settlement there is historically documented to spread over several centuries. Amongst the communities residing in this region are the Arabs, Mijikenda, Pokomo, Taita, and the Taveta. There is also a presence of Europeans, Indians, and a host of others from the rest of Kenya who have settled here due to different economic activities. Taveta are a Bantu-speaking community who live in present-day Taita Taveta County of Kenya, occupying the land between Tsavo National Park and the border with Tanzania. They are commonly referred to as the Wataveta, Watuveta, or Watuweta, the plural names of the people in their language, Kitubheta. The Taveta are said to have already settled at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro by the time of the Bantu migration from West and Central Africa of the 16th century. They are divided into 5 clans, namely Warutu, Wazirai, Wandigiri, Wasuya, and Wanene. They are heavily commingled with Yakamba, Pare, Chaga, Taita, and Maasai communities, a factor which has notably contributed to the diminishing practice of their own authentic cultures. Taveta are a very welcoming people who have been hosting and living with other communities over the years.
Ile miko ambao Taveta waliokewa na huyo baba wa kwanza ni kwamba usifukuze mgeni. Mgeni akija kwako mpe chakula aje alale. Alafu atakwambia ujumbe wake asubuhi. Usimfukuze. That's why you find tribes coming in, they don't go. Wanatoka nje wanakuja hapa.
Some of the historical factors which have contributed to the presence of other communities in Taveta include Taveta land was and is still home to wildlife which attracted hunting incursions by communities such as the Arabs and the Kamba. During the days of slave trade, Taveta was one of the major routes and centers for caravans from inland to the coast.
Waarabu wanatoa watumwa nyanja za juu huko, kama ni Wakamba, Wakikuyu, Wanani wanaletwa hapa. Kuna mahali hapa karibu na sisi hapa, hata Kitumweni was a holding ground. Watu wote hawakupelekwa, wale wanyonge walibaki. The weaker ones ndio walibakizwa hapa, wale strong walipelekwa. Sasa ndio unakuta kuna Wataveta na Wataveta waliingia, walikuja kama Wataveta.
Early Christian missionaries used people from other communities to access the Taveta, who had completely stuck to their authentic religious beliefs. Many workers at the vast sisal plantations which dot this area are sourced from other communities, since the Wataveta have historically been averse to manual labor. Taveta has witnessed many landmark events, amongst them the clash between British and German forces at Salaita during the First World War. It is home to picturesque features which include Lake Chala, made famous by myths surrounding its formation, its location on top of a hill, and the source of its water. There is also Lake Jipe, the historical Grogan Castle, Njoro Springs, and of course, the Tsavo National Park. The rich volcanic soils and abundant water sources have made Taveta agriculturally very productive. The community is engaged in subsistence farming, with the main crops being bananas and tropical fruits, especially mangoes and avocado. Most of the food consumed in the coastal cities of Mombasa and Malindi comes from Taveta. The traditional diet of the Wataveta consists of bananas, pumpkins, cassava, sweet potatoes, and cowpeas. In the past, they engaged in hunting and honey gathering, which gave way to rearing of cows, goats, and sheep, adapted from the Maasai. Nowadays, they practice beekeeping on a small-scale basis to harvest honey for medicinal and liquor purposes. Even if interaction with other communities over the years has exposed the Wataveta to new cultures, they still possess several unique and cherished authentic practices which have shaped their lifestyles all along. The foremost medium through which these authentic features have been carried on for generations is music and dance. Music dominates the entire life span of the Wataveta, with singing done to celebrate childbirths, lullabies for the young ones, initiations, and all the way to the celebration of one's death. The rich traditional music and dance of the Wataveta is generally referred to as Uruasi. From ages past, Uruasi was used to celebrate all community events such as circumcision, marriages, installation of leaders, passage of authority amongst age groups, sacrificial ceremonies, welcoming victorious warriors, amongst others. Uruasi is still common during social, religious, and political ceremonies and funerals to praise the departed, console the bereaved, express pain and agony, and chase away evil spirits. The Watuveta's traditional religion revolved around one supreme god, Izuva, to whom they offered sacrifices for appeasement and called upon in times of calamities and misfortunes, including droughts, locust invasions, barrenness and famine.
Sisi tuna dini zetu. Kila clan Mungu wao ni mmoja, hata Izuva, lakini mahali pa kuabudia ni tofauti. Ukikuta kama Mnene wanaabudu Lekichala, wanaabudu Kidong. Wasuya ni Jipe na sehemu nyingine ngambo ya nchi ita huko Gofi. Naona hata Wazirai wanazao hivyo hivyo. So Wataveta walikuwa na mila na dini yao.
Even if the conversion to Christianity and Islam has highly reduced this practice, most of its features still abound in many community events. All Taveta ceremonies and musical performances, including contemporary ones, open with sacred appeals where in some cases Christian texts are used on traditional melodies. Prayers to Izuva were led by elderly women in a sacred ritual known as Itasi. They face eastwards to start offering the prayers while carrying a special kind of grass known as makongwe, which is said to invoke spiritual powers.
Huyu jua huyu ni anakaa huku ndiye baba huku.
Jinsi anavyotoka.
Huku. Mnaanza huku kwa baba ndio mgeuke mje kwa mama. Kama huyu utampatia nyimbo 3, huyu utampatia 2. Kama huyu unampatia 5, huyu 4. Kama ulinganishi. Namuomba hivi, kama namurushia hivi, namuomba, namuinulia macho, namuomba na yeye anasikia. Hata mnaweza kumuomba hivi hivi, mvua inyeshe saa hiyo hapo mahali mnaombea.
They then face the west, pray more, and place the grass down to sanctify the ground. From that stage, they break into Uruasi, to be later joined by other people in celebration of the answered prayers. It was a belief that no prayer of an elderly woman would ever go unanswered. The other important cultural event of the Watuveta, which featured Uruasi performances, was circumcision, known as Kisiole. This was considered a major ritual in training young people from the age of 18 to take on more adult responsibilities. For boys, It would be done at secluded areas in the forests, in purpose-built huts known as ngondi, while girls' ceremonies were conducted at home. The initiates, referred to as ngasu for girls and masiole for boys, were kept at these sites for several days to be mentored by community elders. Upon undergoing the cut, a repetitive chant is made by the old men conducting the exercise to alert the community that the initiates have crossed the crucial stage. They are then decorated and presented with gifts by their families.
Papa tasini.
Eyo. Murimche.
Bravo.
Eyo.
On the day of emerging from the seclusion, they are slowly escorted by chanting men all the way to their homes, where they are received by ululating mothers and aunties. These chants are also known as kisiole and are meant to announce the new status of the initiates, while at the same time challenging those who are yet to undergo it to gather the courage. Circumcised boys display their new status by mockingly shooting blunt arrows at their aunts, who playfully jump around, teasing them to shoot more, a way of encouraging bravery and expressing pride. This sets the stage for a long session of Uruasi, which is accompanied by feasting and drinking of traditional beer made of bananas and honey. The next major ceremony in which Uruasi plays a central role is the traditional marriage ceremonies referred to as kwaikwa. After the courtship and other premarital processes, a typical marriage ceremony begins at the bride's home, with relatives gathering to see off their girl. The girl will have been restricted at her father's homestead for several months, being fed at the cost of her suitor. The girl's relatives do insist on being given some presents by the man's side before she is released. She emerges from her father's house while hanging on her brother's back, after which she gets her face covered as she is carried all the way to be handed over to the man. Her relatives sing Mwarigenda, a song which loosely translates to "You are leaving your home." Meanwhile, the man's relatives insert texts to welcome the girl to her new home in the same song. This exchange of song texts sometimes leads to the girl being snatched from her relatives and hurriedly carried to her new home. Once united with her husband, the bride publicly displays her new attachment to the man by slowly removing his shoes and other adornments. All this happening amidst song and ululation referred to as Ngalala. At her new home, she is received with a song, Ale Kisambo, in which the man is being told, "Here is your wife." This is followed by feasting, drinking, and long hours of Uruasi. Uruasi was also performed after community meetings, which would take place under a special tree known as Mti Wachila. The tree, believed to be more than a century old, is still found today at the site which was a court to resolve clan disputes and other societal issues by a governing body of elders known as Njama. All Uruasi dances were performed in two lines and were characterized by fast-paced movements, which included foot stamping to bring out the sound of leg rattles. The ladies dance with their hands moving up and down on the sides of their body, in synchrony with their leg, chest, and neck movements. Just like in the Maasai community, Uruasi performance has men alternately jumping to show off their agility and strength, as well as providing vocal interjections and ornamentations in between the songs. In some songs, the women also jump with the men, while many others climax at dancing in pairs. All Uruasi songs had their specific purposes, many with hidden meanings carried in the soloist's lines. The song Odede says, "My beautiful one, dance with pride and shake yourself like a beautiful caterpillar." Mberi Mberi Sogonoi is an encouragement song telling dancers to be energized. Laleyo, Laleyo is a congratulatory song for whatever is being celebrated. Kifuma Rawira means everything belongs to someone. Thus, it encourages everyone to work hard to achieve their goals. Masheroshero tells all that in everything you do it in moderation. In Ngotingo Tima, the wife is told to serve her husband with the best food. The garment adorned in Uruasi is a modification of the previously used colored animal skins, which were adapted from the Maasai. The Taveta, however, have for centuries used beads, which were introduced to them by Arab traders.
Jina lake inaitwa Naria. Naria hizi. Sasa hii ni mikazi. Hapa hivi ni mkazi wa momo. Hii ya kwanza kabisa imeshikilia hapa hii. Hii ni mikazi.
Zote ni mikazi.
Yote ni mikazi. Ngwata. Ni mikazi lakini huu ni ngwata.
Ngwata. Hizi zingine maridadi tu.
Hizi ni kisaribo.
Kisaribo hiyo inakaa nyuma hapo.
Inakaa nyuma kisaribo hii. Unavaa ukivaa hii, unavaa na hii, alafu na hivi virusu hapa. Unaona?
Yeah.
Unaona? Sasa unavaa vizuri. Unaona? Mpaka kujifungua hivi umejifunika, ukifanya hivi usivulane kwa pale paka toe pesa ndio akuone. Fanya hivi. Hii wakati hizi ngaso ni wakati ngaso zimeisha, lakini wakati wa ngaso hii inachungwa vizuri na kuwa mnyororo hivi, mnawekwa kwa ngaso hapo, ndio sasa mnaweka mnyororo hivi, hii inaikaa kwa kiuno. Hii naweka mnyororo hivi, kama unatembea kama mko wanne ama watano.
The performance that we are going to have now is from the Taveta.
The advent of modern religion, education, ways of living and interaction with other communities have impacted negatively on the Taveta language, music and dance. Many of the performances today are at political and general public functions, since events like marriages have been taken over by the church. Local schools have taken up Uruasi, but tailored it to suit the Kenya Music Festival requirements and standards, thus losing many ingredients. Several performing groups have been formed in Taveta to preserve and to popularize Uruasi and other cultures. Due to the prevailing setup, today's performers cannot, however, be able to maintain all the original features of the dance.
Bahati mbaya walimu wa Kitaveta ni wachache.
Kucheza wanacheza kama wale mrani kweli kweli, vizuri kabisa. Lakini nyimbo,
Kuimba sasa.
hapo ndio kazi. Lakini sasa wewe ukisikia unaona ni sawa tu, manake hujui. Lakini wanacheza akiruka na msichana akiruka, kitu ninatamani ninakumbuka tu kwamba kama ingekuwa wakati huo. Lakini mahali ninachoka ni hapo kwa nyimbo. Haziendi namna hiyo kwa kucheza wanakocheza. Kama ni kuruka haiendi kama vile wanaruka. Kama ni chorus hawapeleki ile chorus yake vilivyo.
Hata hawa wakianza kuimba saa hii wa Masai waingie, hakuna vile utazuia Masai kuingia kwenye hiyo.
There is need to consult the aged performers with a view to find ways of retaining as more authentic components as possible.
Nini mimi ninafuatilizia ni hiyo kitu isipotee. Ni kwa sababu sitaki hiyo ngoma ya Kitaveta ikapotea.
It is hoped that with more effort, the captivating Uruasi music and dance of the Taveta will find its way to a global audience.
तुम्हारा भी राखी नाम